Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show. On this podcast, you'll learn from professional players, coaches, and executives from all over the world and see the court in a brand new way. And now, joining you courtside, your Gen Z host, John Hartofilis.
Hank, my man, what's going on?
How's it going, man?
Super excited to have you on. I love the mic setup. You're in the office right now down in Lakeland. Well, it's funny. You asked me at the beginning, does my sound good? I'm like, dude, like this is your thing. All the faith that you would sound good. We're really excited to have you on. We're kind of the voice of the Lakeland Magic. I don't know if you like to go by that sometimes, but that's pretty cool thinking about that. I just want to kind of jump right in because I would imagine, right, being an announcer, you have to have an incredible amount of passion to do that. Like, where did that start for you? Were you always into hoops as a kid? Were you into a lot of different sports? Like, how did that all come up for you?
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me on, John. I really appreciate you. Appreciate what you're trying to do to invest in the next generation of guys coming up in the sport and in the industry. It's awesome what you're doing. Really appreciate what you're doing. But and I appreciate you shining the spotlight on this side of the industry, this side of what we do. You talk to a lot of coaches, to a lot of front office guys, people who have aspirations to go into that. But the presentation, the announcing, something that's really important and something that I'm very passionate about. So I appreciate you taking the time to spotlight that as a part of your lineup, as a part of your show. That's awesome. But yeah, for me, that passion started really early. I always loved basketball, played a lot as a kid. Wasn't really that good, but I definitely got it more into the announcing side of it. My PA start was in high school. Actually, my first day of high school. I was always into technology, like cameras, recording. So when I was going into high school, I jumped right into my elective, television production. I just knew, as soon as I saw it was an option, I was like, I know that's where I'm going. So I jumped right into a television production class, and it was in that first day of class, we were doing this exercise where we were going around. We were on like a block schedule, so we had 90-minute classes. We were going around, sort of like learning a little bit, just getting like an overview, and we did this exercise where we would, like, off of the teleprompter, we would read these lines like to the camera. So I did that, and the teacher kept me afterwards. He was one of the coaches for the high school athletic department. He was like, you have a really strong voice. I was like, thanks. He was like, have you ever thought about announcing at all? I was like, announcing? Like, I don't really know. And he was like, like being like the voice inside an arena or a gym somewhere. And I was like, oh, that would be cool. And he was like, tell you what, why don't you come back during lunch? We'll walk down to the athletic office together. I want to introduce you to somebody and see if maybe we can hook that up for you. And I was like, all right, cool. So I come back, we go down and meet the athletic director and his assistant, and they pretty much offered me a job right on the spot for that afternoon. Like that day after school, I went and announced my first volleyball game.
That's awesome.
And I had to call my mom and be like, Mom, I'm having a great first day of school. I got a job. And she was happy for that. So that was kind of how I got started in volleyball, and I was on the wrestling team, so I did some wrestling as well, then worked my way into some other sports. But the more that I've done it, the more that I've had a chance to try different things, do different things. Basketball has always sort of been my favorite of all the sports to do. The pace is amazing, just the just the way that you can contribute to like the overall presentation, and you see guys at the NBA level who do that amazingly. So just being able to sort of be a part of the game in that way, and be able to contribute in that way, what it is really awesome. It's one of my favorite things. So doing that all through high school, and then when I was going off to college, I was going down to a smaller school in Lakeland. I grew up probably like 2 hours from there, but knew that I was going down to a school in Lakeland, sort of put together a little reel, send it down there. And I was like, hey, I'm coming. If you've got an opening or a chance for you guys to do this, the college level, I'm going to be here. Would love to sort of jump in, be a part of that. And they had me come out. I started doing volleyball there as well, and basketball. And then, so did that for 4 years there. Then the school was bringing on football right when I was getting ready to leave. So stayed after, got a graduate degree out of it, and did 2 more years of announcing across the board, which was awesome. Then when those 6 years of college were up, I kind of figured that was sort of the end of the line. I wasn't really sure what the next step was going to be for me. I knew that I was starting finding a pastor role, a ministry role. Just wasn't sure what sort of opportunities were going to, be able to, be available to me. And then there was a guy who I worked with closely, Brent Crumpton. He worked for the basketball team when we were there. So we had a really good relationship. He started working for the Magic and ticket sales. And when they announced that they were bringing the Bayhawks down and starting the Lakeland Magic, he was really interested in that and got a role in Lakeland. And then when they were doing their, search, they were looking for somebody. He was there advocating for me. The school where we went to school was the university partner. They advocated for me as well. So then it just sort of, the pieces all fell into place. I came down, did an audition, met with everybody, and then they brought me on. That was in 2016 or 17. I'm coming into my 5th season now, so probably awesome. So 2016. I'm doing it for Lakeland, and and the GLeague level is just incredible. I love being a part of it. That organization is amazing. The great leadership there. They put a great product out that's great for so many families. Great presence in the community. They do an awesome job, and so love getting a chance to be a part of it. And coming into my 5th season now, haven't missed a home game, so love having to be able to be present and be back in the RP Funding Center there in Lakeland. And it's gonna be a great season. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of how I got started in all this.
I love this so much. And it's funny. People will be like, what are you going to talk to a PA announcer about? And like, I've had a couple of people in this industry on my show before. And I always have so much fun doing these, because the way you recounted that story, I mean, you're a great storyteller. The way you recounted that story it makes me excited just thinking about a freshman in high school, big backpack, not sure what you're going to, not sure, you don't know anyone, you're super scared. And you end up getting a job in your first day of school. So I definitely want to go talk about that. Before I ask you that, I'm curious, have you been the Lakeland Magic PNL? Like you said, every home game. So I just want to jump on that real quick. Is there ever, you've been in every game, so there's no part of Lakeland Magic history that you haven't told the story about, right?
Yeah, correct.
That's awesome.
And even the bubble, which I'm sure we'll talk about too. I did. I mean, the bubble was such a unique event, and they did have home and away games. I was on every single game that was considered a home game for them, and then they went on their playoff run. They were like the 8th seed, so they didn't have a home game during the playoffs. So I wish I could have been more involved for those, but getting a chance to root for them during that. But yeah, every single home game on the Lakeland Magic that's ever existed, I've been there.
That is so cool. That honestly gets me really excited thinking about that. So if you're ever looking at a Lakeland Magic highlight and it's in their home gym, you'll be hearing Hank's voice.
Oh, I'm there.
Yeah, he's there. He's there. We'll get to like what you're maybe saying a little bit later. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. But okay, going back to, I'm still captivated by that freshman high school story, right? Doing that. What was your high school? Because not a lot of high schools have that, where they have someone on the PA box. So if you can explain that a little, because like for example, I went to a pretty prestigious, great school in New York City, Xavier High School. I still coach there now, which is why I have the jerseys behind me. I love the school. And it's funny, even as a coach now, we just started, like the new AD brought in live streams, and we've been live streaming the triple headers, which is like 3-4 games a year, and he has like students broadcasting it. I always ask him like if I could do it. It hasn't, maybe this year, because we're trying to give everyone a chance. I think it's so much fun. I think broadcasting is so cool. So your school had, and they were letting a freshman just on the mic from day one. So like how did that happen?
Yeah, so I went to a huge at the time my high school was huge. We had almost 4,000 kids. DeLand High School.
Wow.
Here in Central Florida. So it was a huge school, and we had varsity, JV, and freshman teams for pretty much every sport. So it was it was a huge school, and there was a lot of opportunity there for students to get involved. And helped, I think, that that TV production teacher was one of the athletic department coaches, so he sort of had unique insight into what it was they were looking for. They had relationships with guys in the community. There was a community guy that did football for the longest time, and I only was able to do that when I was a senior and I had put in some time. But they had community guys, but especially for some of those contests, right after school, guys are working, they can't always get there, and students are great resource to sort of lean on. It was awesome how that worked out for me, and a lot of being at the right place in the right time, being available, being willing to say yes and try something different. It was so that was really cool. And our athletic department and in my high school back then really loved being able to empower, give those opportunities to students. I think through that I took television production every year. Obviously, I had a great connection with that teacher, and I was involved in that my entire high school career. But just being able to be a part of that, and the opportunities that we got as students, they were so willing just to to let us dream, give us the reins, and let us try some stuff out. So grateful for that opportunity. And same when I was at Southeastern too, in Lakeland, smaller school. So we had, a lot of great resources, great studio, great opportunity. I studied broadcasting there as well. So went into that at school, but being able to bridge the gap between the broadcasting department and athletics and help bring those things together, work with other students to help cover. I couldn't do an entire college, athletic departments full of games. You work almost every day. It'd be practically a full-time job. So being able to, work with other students, help equip them, empower them, get us all connected. I've been very, very, very blessed and very fortunate to be in departments and programs where they were willing to say, we want to give, students the opportunity to show us what they got, put the work in.
So before we start talking, I want to jump into the GA stuff and all this other stuff. It's so cool. But we've been both in situations where we've kind of had that. What advice would you give to someone? This is kind of like, I just thought of this right now. Would you give to someone that maybe doesn't have that in their school? How else can they get involved in broadcasting? If that's what your passion is, but you're at a school that doesn't have those facilities, how could you go about like going out in your community and finding another way to kind of do this passion?
That's a great question, and there are a lot of students out there that maybe don't have this opportunity, and these days it's so easy to be able to capture yourself, get yourself out there, get yourself noticed, be able to record yourself, have that to be able to send to somebody. If your school doesn't have it, the school down the road probably does. Just from having done it in my experience, there's always a need at that level. And it may not be the thing that you necessarily want to do. It may not be, the crosstown rival basketball game that's going to have, 1,000 people in attendance. It may just be the freshman, volleyball game at 3:30 as soon as school gets out and they play for a crowd of just their parents. So what I would say to people is you've got to put yourself in a mindset of service. There's nothing above, there's nothing too good for you to go work and go do, and be willing to show up to anything, even if it's just Little League. And I know that sounds silly, like I'm trying to hype up a Little League game, but like there's an opportunity everywhere, even if it's youth sports, even if it's a school down the road, there's always a chance. And so you've got to be willing to put the work in and go meet and interact with those people, have yourself recorded on camera, and an easy way to hand to somebody or to send to somebody and say, hey, I'd really like to do this. If you want to hear my stuff, here it is, check it out, let me know. And just be able to have those relationships with those people, be willing to speak to that, but also have good relationships with those people. Don't just know them, but be able to have a good relationship with them. Hopefully a relationship where they would speak highly of you. Hopefully a relationship where you have shown that you care and you're going to show up and give your best, and that you care about the people that you work with. I've seen so many situations where the guy who maybe is the best, the most talented, doesn't always get the job. The person that I think a lot of these organizations would rather work with, rather than just pure talent, is someone that can get along well with everybody else, someone that is going to come and contribute, someone's going to be a good team player, someone who again is not above anything that you're going to ask them to do. Because in this industry, we know what it's like to be in a small gym and be expected to announce and keep track of your own fouls and run the music and like all these other things that they expect you to do. So you can't go into it with a mindset of this is too small for me, I'm too good for this. And you've got to be willing to say, I want to have a good relationship with these people. I want to have a reputation that is one of excellence, one of kindness, one of you're willing to work and serve and do everything to your best and work as hard as you can. If you can do those two things, that'll pave the way. That'll get you started, and that'll get you trending in the right direction.
Great advice, and honest hope that this could help you. If it helps one person that's kind of thinking about it, maybe they're young, freshman, sophomore, even a little bit older, and like, I want to get into this. I never broadcast a game until the last month in summer league, and it wasn't like big time like you, where it was like actually like getting broadcasted on networks and stuff. But we had it for a local recording. It's been posted on this show, and the first time was like super challenging. And then as you keep going, it gets better and better and better, and it's all about that getting past that first time. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, play-by-play is like a whole other thing that I can speak to. I've done a little bit of that. Public address is what is my bread and butter, what I do, but play-by-play, it's a lot of the same. Like that's really challenging too. So all these things are awesome, but also very, very difficult at times.
Definitely. The first time is over. You're just all getting past it and getting comfortable. But you mentioned, right, how it might not be the role you want. It might not be the thousand, the sellout crowd and all that, which is maybe what people maybe envision, right? You imagine the triple headers, the face paint, the big signs. Sometimes you might, like a lot of my freshmen in JV, right, all the games I coach, it's a lot of the parents in the stands, which is still fun. But right, maybe not what you're expecting. You eventually got to the point, right? You're doing it at school. You're a GA. So I really, all the GAs I have in the show are coaching GAs, right? That's what they're always doing.
Yeah.
You're in a very unique situation where you're in a GA for broadcasting. If you can explain that a little bit more, because that's something people don't think of when they think of GAs, but obviously you had a great opportunity. You got to go to grad school and do all that.
Yeah.
Doing what you enjoy doing.
Yeah, that GA position was incredible, and it was one that they created with me in mind, and so that was just an amazing opportunity. And again, great timing. Football's coming on, and they didn't want to have the first 2 seasons of that be lackluster in the presentation. And football, the presentation is a huge deal, so that was a great opportunity for me. But yeah, being a GA doing announcing, I mean, it was very different. And I think, like a lot of the GAs that you've had on this show that you've talked to, your GA title maybe says one thing, but we all know that you're going to be doing a million other different things. That was the case for me too. When we had, slower weekends or teams on the road, I would travel with them. I would, there was nothing I wouldn't do. I'd take pictures. I would do write-ups on games. I would do social media. When I was a GA, I mean, they're investing a lot into you as far as, money, resources, all those kind of things. So they want to try to maximize that investment. So again, you've got to be willing to, in those kind of situations, say whatever needs to be done, like I'm ready, let's go. But also be willing to give, your best to your coursework, your school, finish that strong. And so yeah, that was an awesome experience. I'm grateful for that. That was really one of the most formative times for me. We were working with a lot of younger students, so having that management experience, right, of being able to say, like, I can't physically cover all these games. Nobody has the time. So we've got to be able to say, all right, well, so we know this person can do this sport, like let's plug them in here. This person seems like they're interested. Let's try them out over here and see how that goes. So that experience really gave me that sort of management experience that I'm still using to this day, but also opportunity to continue to develop those relationships, continue to reach out into the community and know those people, and set yourself up for whatever the next thing is, which is what we were able to do, getting things ready to go for Lakeland when I didn't even know that was ever going to be a possibility. The GA experience is awesome, highly recommended for anybody. And a broadcasting one, very, 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 very intensive, lots of time. And but you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna get a chance to do things like radio shows, do things like hone in your sports writing, hone in writing in general, social media. I mean, you'll get a huge set of skills that you'll be able to take with you to whatever your next step is.
So I have to jump on this right away, because you said it at the beginning and you kind of went away from it. You said that they kind of created it with you in mind, this J position. You got to backtrack. You got to tell them about that. That is so cool. They didn't have that before you got there.
No.
You get there, they're like, what we got to do? Hank Taylor's coming to school. We got to get it for him. And now now you've left the school, and I'm sure, right, they still have it going, and there's countless students benefiting off of that having existed in the past. So you got to tell me a little more about that. Like, how does that conversation happen? Are you a senior applying to school, and like that now you're in that conversation? Are you talking to the head coach and he's talking to the AD, and now they're like, you know what? Let's do it because Hank's good at this. Like, how did that conversation even come up? Like, how you had the courage to say, yeah, give me a GA spot? Like, how?
It really wasn't something that I had really thought of when I was like rising junior, like going into senior year. I was thinking I was going into TV radio. Like that was sort of what my thought process was. The administration from the school, they sort of put it in my ear, like, hey, we've got football starting next year. We'd love to have you around, for football plus, everything else. What would you say about a GA spot? And so it just gave me another option on the table. Thought about it a lot, went back and forth, with family, friends, everybody about, if this is something that I should do. And ultimately, you think about it and you think about what a graduate degree would cost, and to have the opportunity to earn that basically for free, put in the time, that was something that, that I just couldn't pass up. So I ended up saying yes to that, which was awesome. It was the one of the vice presidents of the school who had sort of had that idea. He was the one that was sort of over student experience and was heavily invested in football. So him and sort of the athletic director, they sort of shared me and my responsibilities. So I worked really closely with them and our sports information director, who's still there. When that was coming up, there weren't a ton of GA spots that were available. Teams, some of the higher profile teams would have maybe one or two. Certain, certain departments in the school, they would have maybe one or two, but GA spots were rare. And so it was because we were a smaller school, so it was a huge honor to have one created with me in mind. That was huge. Now you go back there, it's gotten a lot bigger. I still get a chance to go back and do football every once in a while, so I still have that relationship with love getting a chance to go back and represent my alma mater and do some football with them. But there's so many more GAs now, so many more student workers that help make those athletic events happen. They all do an amazing job, and like you said, so many students have benefited from what we were doing 6-7 years ago, as far as the level we were trying to take our department to be across the board. And presentation is a huge part of that. You have a great presentation that sort of elevates your status, that sort of makes the community notice you more. And so when you think back to what we were doing when I was a freshman, sophomore in college, and what we would eventually come to do in the GA spot, and look at where it is now, like 9-day difference. So yeah, lots of people have benefited from that for sure. And it was just a huge honor to be a part of it. Like, I'm so grateful for the school in that regard. That was really where, high school is where I got started, but that was where I became that was where I got a chance to really develop, not just like as an announcer, but as a person, really sort of, understand the importance of these things that we've already talked about, like having a good relationship with the people that you work with, showing up and giving your best and, being friendly. That was where you learn all of that and the importance of that. So, and not having, something be too good to be a part of. That's where, those concepts, those skills, that's where those were learned. Then now I've taken that into a professional, career. It's so grateful for everything that school did and that time did, that GA role in particular. Like, that really helped to set me up for everything that I've done so far and everything that's going to happen.
I'm so happy to hear this whole story and think about the transition year after year to get to where you are now. So thinking about just how you ended up with the G League, you mentioned a while ago about making a reel, right? And the process of doing that. Can you go a little deeper into that? Like, how did that, because right now G League teams coming to town, that's got to be super exciting. What is that process of applying for? Like, how do you make a reel? What do you pick out from what you're doing? How do you get the footage? Like, how does that all kind of go down?
It's tough because you can find, you can go back and find usually games, but if there's a broadcast, you've got play-by-play guys, speaking over you, and, you're maybe not necessarily the focus of a live stream or a broadcast. So it's harder to get, footage from those things. GoPro, cell phones are your friend. You just prop that up on the table. And I found that is, a great way just to sort of capture what it is that you do. I've got tons of videos of that. When we were doing the G League bubble, I was going live for starting lineups. And so being able to capture that in that way. So it can be hard. It can be hard to find that good material. But for my reel, I always try to just include, a visiting starting five, a home starting five. That's going to be the part that's going to be really good. I usually save that for the end, and then throw in a couple of other game calls. If you have a signature call, throw that in there a couple of times. Just a couple other sponsor reads. You don't want it to be too long or inaccessible for somebody that you're going to potentially share this to, who's going to maybe just watch it off their cell phone for a couple minutes and remember it or not. So I always try to keep it about 2 or 3 minutes. Put your best stuff out there, and even if it's just a phone recording or a GoPro recording of you propped it up on the head table there on the sideline, and just get what you can. That's my process. You sometimes can get stuff from game footage, but that stuff is rare.
Got it. Interesting. I'm thinking about having that. And one quick question about that in terms of thinking about the starting lineup, and that's kind of being like the bread of, like that being like maybe the main event in terms of what you're doing. Which player, which nickname was like the most fun for you to say, and like was maybe got the best crowd reaction?
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. There's been so many good names like in the G League. I always we had Devin Kennedy on the G League team this year, that when they were in the bubble, he was the finals MVP for Lakeland. He the makeup of his name is just so interesting because he has that 3-syllable last name, Kennedy. So to sort of stretch that out, I did it a bunch of different ways, just playing around with it. But that was definitely a fun one. Another Lakeland guard who is playing overseas now, Troy Copain. I just loved being able to put that emphasis on that middle syllable, really like punch it home. He was a good one. He was one I remember. Gabe York, another guy who's just did a little bit of everything, high flyer, and just a short like punchy name. You could really put it out there, really good. And so yeah, there've been some great names. There've been some great names through the years for sure. Those are some of my favorites.
It's funny thinking about that. And when people think about, like, for me as a New York fan, I just think of the whole way they'd say Carmelo Anthony, right, at MSG, and everyone would go crazy. Thinking about just something like that, that's just, I mean, obviously, I would never even attempt to say that right now. I'm just saying the name Carmelo Anthony because if I tried the whole Carmelo, I would sound really bad. So I'm not even going to do that. I don't want to embarrass myself. But like thinking about like the legendary PNRs that do that. I mean, how do you get better? How do you study? Do you look up? Do you have like these mentors that you look up to and stuff? Like what is it like in terms of like becoming better at your craft, or looking up to someone saying, you know what, like I want to kind of sound like, or maybe replicate a little bit of what they're doing.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on it. It's you got to find the people out there who you enjoy, who you want to emulate, and just study it like as much as you can. For me, I think about Paul Porter, who PAs for Orlando and has PA'd for Orlando since day one. And that's been 30 something years for him in his career. So he's been the guy, at least around here, that I've tried to emulate. He also does the Tampa Bay Lightning too. So he very involved, like super connected, super involved, and excellent at what he does. So that's a lot of who I try to emulate. I also am a big Bruce Buffer fan, UFC fan. So I try to incorporate a lot of like his style into what I do. So yeah, it's just studying those guys and being able to. And all of these guys, I got to give them credit, are all so nice. I know a lot of the different guys who do it at the NBA level around. Michael B down in Miami, I've talked with him several times, talked with Sean Peebles. He's at the Cavs now. There's a bunch of different guys that I've talked to who just are so accessible and are just so willing to, share with you, whatever it is that their experience is. And then even being able to do things like the G League bubble, which was a rare thing. There were 4 of us announcing there in that bubble, guys who work all around the G League, guy from Greensboro, guy from Windy City, and the guy from Oklahoma City. We were all there, working in the bubble. So getting a chance just to lean on those guys and be willing to be open to critique. I mean, we were all going in and out of the same gyms all day, hearing each other work. And so just being able to be like, hey, you were in here for my stuff. What did you think? Where did you think I could have shored up? What could I have done different? And being willing to listen to those guys and hear what they're doing and be like, oh, I like that. I want to try to incorporate that, or I would maybe take that and do it this way. But it's, you're always learning. You always got to be listening, always got to be learning, because just like, the game evolves, our presentation, it should evolve. You think back to how important the 3-pointer is. It's almost even more exciting now than a dunk was. It's almost the new dunk. Like people get as excited, if not more, a 3 when you're on the comeback, when a 3 can be such a momentum swing. So you've got to be able to bring your best. That's not just so and so for 3 anymore. You've got to really put emphasis on that, because that is a huge moment for the crowd. It's got to be a huge moment for you. So your style's always got to be adapting. You've got to be paying attention to not just what your colleagues are doing, but what the players do, what's important to them, what are the things that get them excited. Those are the things that are going to help you get excited, because if the players are excited, they'll get even more excited if the crowd's engaged and if they're on the same page. So bringing all those people together, like that's a huge aspect to me as far as what we do.
So you brought up like the crowd getting into it and these big time plays, which got me thinking, like what was maybe whether it's the biggest play you've ever seen or the biggest play that you've announced on, or if you remember the call you made when it happened. Whether it's a game-winning 3, big time dunk, like what do you kind of say? What was the aftermath like?
There was a buzzer beater 3 in Lakeland that was the end of like being down, like they had been down like 30-35, something like that at one point in the game, and came all the way back and won on a buzzer beater. And that was that. If you look up Lakeland Magic buzzer beater, I'm sure you'll see it. That was incredible. Rodney Purvis coming right off the screen, absolutely drilled it. Probably got fouled on the way down, but of course never got called. And just sitting there on the ground, his teammates, dogpiling him. That to me is one of the most like incredible moments that I've gotten to be a part of, for sure. Like that was top notch.
Love that. Do you remember exactly what you had said when that went down? Because I looked it up just now, saw it really quickly, and I'm going to put it over this video.
And saved out of bounds. The Magic have it. Left wing, caught, 2 seconds left, into the corner. Purvis, the 3 for the win. Yes! Yes! The Magic win! Rodney Purvis, they dogpile in the corner courts. The Magic win! My goodness!
It's an awesome highlight. So what were you said?
Oh, for sure. I'm pretty sure.
I couldn't hear it because I'm on the show, but I'm going to listen to it after.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I announced that guy's name, Rodney Purvis, and then I have a signature call for threes, and especially for a moment like that, I get super drawn out. But I just say with the triple and drag that all the way out, and then so I'm pretty sure I did that. Then went right into whatever we do post game. It was electric. It was cool.
It's always a good thing when you go from something exciting to the post game. That means something went right. That means something went right there. Obviously, if you're going from a positive to now the game's over, and you're going to go from there. So that's awesome thinking about that moment, and can't wait to listen to it after this.
Yeah.
We've been talking, we've been kind of going around this whole thing about you working in the G League, which is so cool. Obviously a lot's been happening. The G League's grown so much, and when you went there, it was the G League, so it's still like kind of that supercharged version of the D League that we knew from before that. Obviously the bubble was a huge thing. We'll get to that, but like maybe in your first 2-3 years there before the bubble, like how is it always changing? Like Lakeland obviously being a first year team, second year, third year, kind of growing, getting better. Like what did that look like for you and being a part of that?
Yeah, well, Lakeland's journey was crazy. They've made the playoffs every year that they've been in Lakeland, so they always have had, they've always been able to find success there. But the G League is just an incredible avenue, not just for players. Players certainly are developing and using that as a way to hone in their skills, grow their game, hopefully take the next step. But it's that way not just for players, it's for all of us. It's guys like me who are trying to earn opportunity to work at the highest level, which I have done now. And it's guys on the play-by-play looking to try to advance their career. It's the guys who are sitting there who are doing stats. They want to try to have a bigger stats career. Even down to like the ushers and the people who work in like the guest experience side of it. Like they are honing their skills. They're practicing what they do to hopefully take the next step for them as well. So when they say it's a developmental league, and it's it's not just players, it's all of us. Like we all are there trying to grow, hone our skills. So yeah, that the G League is just an awesome part. I love being a part of it. Lakeland has always been able to find some success there, and so being able to be a part of that story is awesome. The coach who just got an awesome opportunity to go back to his alma mater, Stan Heath, was an awesome coach. One of his assistants now is going to become the head coach this year, so we're excited to see that. Anthony Parker, who is an NBA player, he's head of the front office there, general manager. He's just an incredible leader, awesome guy to work for. Just such an incredible family that they're a part of, obviously, and just an amazing heart for the game. And the whole G League experience is just so great. And I think a lot about, like, you've had Jeff Key on the show who runs G League TV. I'm grateful for guys like that who bring a spotlight to the talent that we have at that level. There's just and especially being a part of the bubble and getting to see so much G League basketball condensed like into such a short amount of time, you come to realize like there's so much talent at this level. It's not like it used to be. There's incredible games, incredible storylines, just like you see at the highest level. You could see them there as well. Like there's so many incredible opportunities for these guys place to be able to grow, develop. Like the G League is just such a great platform, and I'm glad that it's growing. I'm glad that it's getting more notoriety, because these players, they deserve the shots that they're getting. All of us who are working to try to, you know, make that possible. You know, so many great stories come out of that place, you know, on and off the court. So it's just such a unique environment, and so cool to be a part of.
So you mentioned Jeffrey Key and people like that. And I got to tell you about two-way after this. I don't know if you've checked that out yet, but that's something that I literally just launched last week. And I think you are going to love that if you love what Jeffrey Key is doing. Jeffrey Key is getting posted, and he's coming out for a part 2. He really did it. It's getting posted, I think, tonight or tomorrow. I got to check the schedule. Jeffrey's the guy. He's the man with that.
He's the man.
Is that how you found Gen Z Hoops? Is that kind of how this G League Instagram?
It might have been.
I think so.
I maybe.
That's pretty cool. Jeffrey I remember because we messaged when I was at Summer League. He kind of got posted like a week before Summer League. So that's really cool thinking about that. Shout out to Jeffrey just in general, because he's really cool. And he's a man. Fanatic. So that's awesome thinking about that. Now, we've been jumping around this. It's finally time to talk about the bubble. Right, we've been waiting for this moment, this entire podcast. Everyone's been listening. People, I'll leave it in the show notes. They can skip to this if that's all they want to hear, but they should listen to the whole thing because it's pretty good. But this is the pinnacle of this show, because you were telling me off air like how much fun it was and how much of a crazy experience it was. So, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Like, tell us a little about the bubble, going there, announcing there, and being in a whole new environment. I mean, you kind of go from step one in that sense.
Yeah, the bubble was incredible. It was such a cool experience, and it happened, you know, just right up the road, over at Disney World. Disney's like 45 minutes from me, and so when we knew that it was coming here, I was super excited. I just started reaching out to the Lakeland team, to anybody that I knew that was just like, if there's a chance, like, I want to try to go, like, just let me know. I'm around, I'm here, like, I could use the work. So let's figure this out. Let's figure out how I can get there. And got a chance to meet with some of the guys who were running the event from the NBA side. Those guys were awesome. But then, you know, once it was getting started, they had me locked in. I was working mostly on the front end and the back end, not so much in the middle, because there were, you know, 4 of us that were working. And so when those guys, you know, were all there, I didn't work quite as much, but I did get a chance to keep all of Lakeland's home games. There are like 7 or 8 of those. And so just to be a part of it at all was just awesome. I think back to like some of those tournaments, like, you know, when you're, you know, like you think about like AAU or like high school tournaments where it's just like all basketball all day, all the time. That's what it felt like, but it was like the highest level. So that just made it like so much more exciting. They were running that thing very similar to what the NBA bubble was like. They were using the 2 big sports complexes there that were hosting the games. It was obviously a little scaled down from a presentation standpoint, but it basically operated the same. And it was again just so cool to be a part of. I was very fortunate and blessed. I didn't have to stay on campus. I was able to, you know, drive in, since it's only about 40 minutes for me. So being able to, you know, stay at home, sleep in my own bed, like keep my day job going was a huge opportunity. And then, you know, be able to drive down there, be a part of games, watch games, was just so cool. And that season was just so interesting. Like, you know, you think like, you know, the season beforehand ended so abruptly, you know, when COVID shut the NBA down. There was, you know, I remember when that moment of, you know, Rudy Gobert having it, they shut that game down. They're going through, I think it was in Oklahoma City, they're like shutting that game down. They were postponing, you know, inevitably everything else. Like I had just done a game the day before and was supposed to go the next day for the next one, and they were calling saying, hey, you know, we're shutting down, we don't know when, like, we hope to come back. But that was back when it was like, oh, maybe a couple weeks, like we'll be able to restart. And so, you know, you had all this hope, and then it just never ultimately came back. And Lakeland was getting hot at the right time. Like they were going to potentially, you know, run deep into the playoffs that year. So when they announced, you know, the bubble was going to happen, the whole season condensed into just about a month, like they were going to do the whole thing. Like that was just like, it gave us so much hope that, you know, things were coming back. So to be a part of that at all was just a huge and amazing opportunity that paved the way. I think for me to do my first Orlando game, which I did shortly after that, which was also awesome. And that was so the bubble was just really an awesome opportunity. So much high level basketball. Like, it was just like all of us who listen to your show, like, it's just our dream. Similar to how Summer League probably is, which I want to try to get out and do one day too. But just like so much basketball, like in such a small, like physically small place, like you could just get your fix, watch as much as you can. It was awesome. It was really, really, really cool.
Culminating in a championship, so that's got to just add even more to it.
Yeah.
The off season coming to this season, like what does this season look like? Obviously the defending champs, I would imagine, right? Like that's got to be just cool thinking about it. You have all the gear at home, right? All the Lakeland Magic championship gear, but it's a brand new season, brand new protocol, brand new schedule, brand new everything, brand new staff, brand new head coach. Like what's so the outlook for this season like? I mean, what are you most excited to be calling out for?
We're excited. I mean, I think about, you know, the success that we were able to have in the bubble. Really, we haven't, you know, changed as much as probably a lot of other teams. You know, we have a different head coach, but it's someone who was a part of that coaching staff. So already familiar with these players, already familiar with the culture, can build on that. So we're excited about what Coach Joe's going to do and what he can bring to the table. We've got, you know, we're in a good situation as far as, you know, players who, you know, should come back. We'll have 2 new two-way players. They've got Ignas Brezdeikis already confirmed for Orlando already, and they're still waiting to fill that last one. I think once training camp's done, they'll make a better determination on that. So yeah, it'll be, so I think the outlook's going to be great. From on the court. I mean, off the court, the bubble showed a lot, highlighted a lot of the things that maybe need to look a little bit different in a world where everyone is a lot more health conscious, and what that looks like. So it'll be interesting to see how the protocols change. I keep a close eye on that, all the health and safety protocols that come out as far as what we're going to be expected and be able to do in our home arenas next year. I know so many of the fans are excited for this to become a back. It'll be exciting to take that momentum of a championship and ramping into next year. I'm excited for what they're going to do with the showcase to start the season off. I think that whole addition to their schedule is really exciting. And so yeah, I think everything is trending up, and we'll say it here first. Maybe they'll be the first team to repeat in the G League. That would be really exciting.
Can't wait to see it all go down. Obviously, watching the G League bubble last year was a lot of fun, but getting to maybe go to, I'll be going all along on Nets games this season, getting to see it in person, meet all these past guests. I can't wait for the season to start.
Is that your G League team, Long Island?
So it is. I'm a season ticket holder now this year, which I'm very excited about. I'm in a select group of there aren't too many season ticket holders, but I'm one of them. I'm very excited to be going to all these games and be cheering on the team, but also just meeting people that are coming in. Unfortunately, I think we played the Magic. We play you guys at some point, I think.
I would imagine.
The way the conferences work out.
Yeah, but Long Island was one of the teams that knocked us out of the playoffs one year, and in an overtime game. Theo Pinson, I won't forget it.
Really quickly, I just thought of this. Is that the microphone you use for all your games?
No, this is not. Okay. The arena. It's one that's similar to this, but the arena down there in Lakeland has a setup that they use.
Got it. But really, it was an awesome show, just learning so much about what you're doing and how you do what you do. I mean, the story, I still can't get over that freshman year story. I think that's so cool. I remember being a freshman myself and wanting to try new things, being all super scared about it. You kind of went into that with open arms, and now it's your career, which I think is super cool. So Thank you so much for joining the show and telling that story. And I can't wait for this G League season to start. It's going to be a special one.
Oh, it's going to be great. Can't wait for it to be back. Can't wait to, see what stories come out of the G League this year. And it's always so cool to see how the G League will make an impact on the NBA. And it's exciting.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.